Hello everyone, this is Curos Mirran, and today we're going to be talking about ToA Stage 80, also known as the Artamiel Stage, the Noob Stomper, the Rune Check, the Patience Test. So, what is so problematic about the Artamiel Stage of ToA? Currently, right now, it's on the Trial of Ascension Stage 80. You've got the Lich first stage, you've got the Woundhawk Sigmarus stage, but most importantly, you have the third stage, the most painful stage, the one that really puts people into frustration mode. It tilts people, it makes life miserable. Why is that? Because we have Artamiel, we have two light yetis, which counterattack when you hit anything other than them, and two wind monkeys that counterattack if you hit anything other than them. So we're going to talk about how do you surmount this. And right now I'm running a pretty readily accessible team. At some point, all of these monsters were given or available to be got in your summoners or career, unless you are a new player. And new players will talk about substitutes for that as well. Chances are, if you are pretty new, you might not want to be actually attempting this. You've got to your 70, you got your Devilmon. It might be just good to pack it up and walk away for a second. I'm not saying you shouldn't clear ToA normal, but if you're going to have to try 5 to 20 times here, it might be better for you to use your energy elsewhere. So let's talk about why this stage really sucks. Well, it's an RNG fest, especially when using Veramos. When using Veramos, because you do not have a dedicated better stunner, i.e. Gildong, Woundhawk, Wuchi. He's not really a good stunner, but you get the picture. When you don't have someone that has a 100% activation rate on a good AoE stun, you're always throwing up your chances of winning into the wind. So, you come into this last stage. Your Veramos goes first. He jumps using Mega Crush, right? And he lands 0 stuns. What do you do then? You've basically just forfeited that round because chances are 3 to 5 of them are going to counterattack you and your Veramos is going to be stunned, probably slowed, and nearly dead. You've crit, so Artamiel just got that attack bar boost, defense increase, and he's just ready to go completely crazy on your face. You'll be down your Veramos within 1 or 2 turns, and then you just have to reset. It was a waste of energy. So, what makes Artamiel easier? Well, there's one very, very key thing in fighting Artamiel, and that is armor break. Now, a lot of people will say there are some key debuffs, which are heal block and armor break. Heal block, I say, is not as important as armor break, because armor break takes away 70% of Artamiel's defense, which increases via his passive every single time you critically hit anything. If you are bringing Veramos, if you're bringing Diaz, if you're bringing Arya, if you're bringing Spectra, you will crit at some point, whether you like it or not, and you will be increasing his defense. So Armor Break really mitigates that defense increase by keeping it very low, because even if it increases by a good 30 to 40%, you're still decreasing the overall value by 70. With Artamiel armor broken, he hits somewhat close to a wet noodle. With Artamiel armor broken and attack broken, he hits less than a wet noodle. Think of those like Flubber commercials where they have like the goo run out and it just like splops on the floor. It kind of does that to you. The problem with Artamiel is that since he is of the Archangel family type, he will strip buffs. So you can't reliably bring immunity. You can't bring a defense buff. You have to either bring a lot or none, because you're not going to keep it, and the one person who gets it removed is going to be the one who gets focus fired. So, what are the key things outside of armor break? Persistence. That's what I'm going to have to say here. I know it's a little counterintuitive. It's absolutely counterintuitive to what I just said earlier, is if you can't complete it within your first few tries, you should probably stop and maybe try it again later, as to not waste your energy. But persistence is key here. If we're seeing in this run right now that it's currently failing, is why did I fail? I got armor break on him. I got even a 3-man stun from Veramos off the start. The reason why I failed off the start of this run is because the second stun was not good. Everyone unstunned. Veramos went to stun, and he got nobody. He crit on a couple and got beaten down to dead. And that's why this stage is so RNG heavy. Sometimes you will stun everyone. Sometimes you'll stun none, and none of them will counterattack, surprisingly. Or sometimes you will stun 2 to 3, and the remaining will all counterattack. You'll be stunned, you'll be slowed, and you'll be screwed. So it really just relies on trying again. Now, mind you, there are better ways to go about this. Farmable teams are probably not the best idea for this. But, as you see, I'm going to run this a second time. As I run this a second time, you'll notice that the first stage, the second stage, generally all the same, but I win. I win because stuns are a little bit better. The game in this stage is playing RNG to your favor and not getting tilted. Don't get angry if you lose. Don't get angry if your Bella with her 15% crit rate crits 3 times in a row. It will happen. There is nothing you can do about it to stop it. So, try again. Try again and try again. That's all you can really do about it. If you feel like there wasn't RNG playing against you and you still failed, but you weren't even close, that's a good sign to stop or reevaluate how you're doing this. Now your key players here are Beretta for your dots, your attack bar reset, and his speed lead. You've got Veramos for stuns, but if you have a dedicated stunner, I highly suggest you bring him there instead. Diaz, if you don't have him, don't fret it. He's just there to make rune requirements easy. As you're going to be getting hit back a lot, regardless of how much health you have or how tuned your team is, you're going to get hit in this stage. And there's no real easy way to stop it, because even if you taunt Artamiel, he will hit you back upon a crit. So, you've got Beretta to put those dots down to kill off the sides without really focusing on them. You've got Mav to give yourself the cooldown reduction needed to unstun some of your allies every now and then when they get monkey stunned. You've got Diaz to just sit there, be your HP beefsteak, you know? He just sits there, he lets himself get smacked around. If you don't have to run a Veramos, don't run a Veramos if you're running Diaz. Because if you watch that last run, my Veramos was still getting hit and targeted by Artamiel and the 2 Yetis. Whereas if I was not running Veramos, only Diaz would be hit. And Diaz can take it. My Veramos is not stellar runed. My Veramos has not been re-runed, and his runes actually his quality has been decreasing over time, as I find that I could use his runes elsewhere. Originally when I built my Veramos, the last time I touched him was when I was building him for Dragon Speed 10. And I was like, ooh, 180 speed on Veramos, 20k health, he's unstoppable. Little did I know that I was weak as heck, and my Perna now has more health than him. So my Veramos has low HP, low defense, and I'm pretty sure many of you watching have a much better Veramos. I promise you. You'll see his runes at the end, and you'll be like, but why? So we're going to go and just snap into what's going on right now. We got a 3-man stun. Everyone's been unstunned. Got an attack bar reset. Throw some dots down. Now what? We go for those Yetis. The order in which you want to fight this, if you're not going straight boss, is Yetis, Monkey, Artamiel. The reason being is the Yetis' activation rate on their Silent Rage, their passive to counterattack, is higher chance than that of the monkeys. Once you get rid of the Yetis, you're down the slow on their team as well. Slow is very important, even if it only lasts for 1 turn. But if your Veramos gets slowed, he will have a lot harder time cleansing. He won't be able to keep his stuns Keeps his stuns up, my apologies. He won't keep his stuns up, and he will be in just a bad state. See, I only got 2 stuns right there. Veramos got smacked by the remaining 3. But with Diaz's passive, I was able to survive it. Bella shouldn't really need explaining. She's there because she brings an armor break. She's got an attack bar boost. She's got an heal. The strip is kind of pointless here, but her whole job is to land that defense break on Artamiel. I made a crucial mistake of hitting a light monkey with Veramos. You should never do that. Don't hit into element advantage on this fight. What I found to be the most successful is to constantly taunt the monkey, because the monkey will armor break something, and if something gets armor broken, it's as good as dead if you don't have a turn between you and them. Regardless of element, regardless of type, regardless of monster, it will probably die. Unless it's Theomars. Then it will not die until Artamiel goes, he'll strip it, and then he'll die. Now, what made this run any different than the first run? I'm obviously in a much better spot. RNG. I just hit that light Yeti with Veramos a second time, and I didn't crit. And the first time, my Bella crit 2 to 3 times in a row and got herself smacked down to nearly dead. And in this next run you'll be seeing, she does it again. It's all about the RNG of the fight. Do I crit when I need to? Do I crit when I don't want to? Do I crit? Period. Now, my Veramos is dead. But the light Yetis are gone. That's all that really matters here, is the light Yetis are actually the most problematic thing in this entire stage. They counterattack more often than they don't. So as soon as they're out of the way and you're in a 4v3, a 4v2 situation like this, you're pretty much set to go. And we're just gonna let this one play out because it looks promising, and I can tell you already that we've won. The only thing we have to do is just make sure that we get that last monkey out of the way, and then from there on, you can press auto. A singular Artamiel will not kill you when you have enough people to support the rest of your team, especially when the only person left to be hit is Diaz. Diaz can take it. Diaz is an R5 or Raids 5 frontliner. He excels at being a beefsteak. You ruin him HP, HP, defense, 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 HP. He doesn't need speed. He doesn't need, like, accuracy helps, but he doesn't need it. His whole job is to sit there, survive, and provide a passive, along with sometimes an armor break and an attack break. Now, what can you do if you don't have a Diaz? Well, you can run Arya. Arya is a very strong choice because she applies slow, she applies glancing, she has a heal block on her second. She can sleep with a very, very, very high chance on her first skill. And if she sleeps, it attack bar boosts her. Attack bar boosting her is a wonderful thing because it allows her to just play the game of chess that this fight is, because she can control the field the more turns she takes. With the speed buff up from Mav, the attack bar boost from Bella, she will be going quite often if you have her on Despair, maybe even Violent. If you don't need her for stuns, she will 100% attempt to control that field. Now, but Curos, I wasn't here for the Arya Hall of Heroes, plural. Well, what can you do instead? Colleen. You can bring Spectra, like I'm showing here, and this one's just bad RNG. But you bring in Spectra, and Spectra's always a gamble on this stage, because generally you want to ruin your Spectra with a little bit of crit rate or crit damage. And when you ruin crit rate onto your Spectra, he will potentially get himself killed. And that's bad, because on the last stage you're going to be boosting that defense a little too much. So, what do? You can bring in a Reviver. I have had good success with Beta. I have had good success with Brienne, even at 5-star. So, what do you do if you don't have either of those? You've not been lucky enough to get an L&D Nat 4. You've not been lucky enough to pull a Elemental Nat 4. McKeen is a good Reviver. Contrary to popular belief, she is a very good Reviver, especially for your early Dragon Speed 10 team. But Curos, she's water. She's going to get focus fired on by the monkey. And that's exactly why she's great for this. Because of the fact that the monkeys will be targeting her nearly 24/7 unless you taunt them, then you're going to have the control of the field. The Artamiel and the Yeti should be attacking your Vermos or Diaz, whoever you're bringing. The monkeys will be attacking your McKeen, and your McKeen you'll ruin very much like your HP of a beefstick Diaz. You'll ruin him with high amounts of just health, defense, and some resistance. No speed is required. You just want her to survive, revive when necessary, and maybe sometimes, heal with that Aqua Frenzy. Other than that, you don't need it. So I'm going through right now on the end of a few monsters. Sorry, at the end there will be a few monsters that can replace any other monster that can really use. The core team is you need someone who brings dots, someone who stuns, some form of healer, some form of armor break, and potentially either heal block or a taunt. If you can't survive it, bring a reviver. I didn't show any of mine off because they are currently de-runed. But overall, I hope that helped you so very much, and if you still have any problems with it, please do check out my live streams on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. I'll be happy to show you different team comps, and maybe even give you a tailored response to your teams if you show up and participate in chat. Anyways, for now, I hope that you guys have the best of luck with this stage, and if you do get through it, you should be able to finish the rest of ToA normal, and I hope you have the greatest of pulls. Anyways, Curos signing off, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day.